Welcome to the Conduit Deeper podcast, a podcast that takes a deep dive into the details that surround our current sermon series, from current events to fascinating finds to conversations that take us deeper into the Word. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to our Deeper podcast. My name is Mo, Executive Pastor at Conduit Church, joined with our lead pastor, Darren Tyler, and we're back in the saddle.
Does it not feel like in our new setup that we should be like presenting the news?
Yeah. You know, I do enjoy the weather, so I
could be the meteorologist.
I want to be the meteorologist in this, and the sports guy. And you can bring all the latest headlines.
Yeah, but I don't really have the anchor looks. I could be like the investigative pugilist journalist.
You're the war correspondent.
Okay, that's right. We did do that.
We did establish that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. So I'm the war correspondent that's on assignment on a desk.
Yeah, and so we do have, for those watching, we do have a new setup on our for the YouTube channel. We've got a little desk here.
Yeah, it's fancy. I really feel like it's very fancy.
Just gives us a little more room to spread out.
Well done to Micah and Caleb getting this all set up. And
yeah, it works well. But man, it's been a few weeks.
Yeah. Do you feel like I got some cobwebs up in my brains? Like I got to blow them out somehow.
Yeah, it probably requires maybe a little extra grace on this podcast. We've got a lot to catch up on. Maybe a little rusty, a little cobwebby.
Yeah.
But there's a lot happening, and there's been a lot happening in your life and in my life. There's actually been a lot happening in our lives the past month. I became a grandpa again. That's kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal. Weird.
It is weird.
But huge. Tell us, give me your grandpa, that we just get this out of the way.
Yeah, get it out of the way. Producer Micah made me a grandpa a second time with his baby girl, Maya June. And she's my little June bug.
Aw.
She's awesome.
So we got the boy and the girl. They used to call that the millionaire family, the boy and the girl.
Yeah.
Mike, are we going to try again for this? You're going to...
Well, probably too soon to ask that question. Producer Mike is tired. You know, she's 2 weeks old, so he's not anytime soon. He's figuring it out.
Yeah, but Lauren, what's she saying? I promise you, this is not your decision.
She's hanging in there.
Yeah,
she's hanging in there. And then on your end, you know, your lovely wife, Miss Shannon, Queen Bee, had a little surgery this past couple weeks, hopefully feeling a little better. She was in a tremendous amount of pain, had a little bit of a slip disc situation that was not good.
Yeah, it was. So
you've been playing nurse, house nurse.
I'm such a bad nurse. I'm so bad.
Yeah,
at it. I want to be
better,
kind and nurturing, and the golden retriever version of me. And
how long did that last?
I don't know that it ever started. I tried. Like, now I've not. There's been a couple moments where we've been a little testy, I shall say, with each other, and moments of apologizing. Like, I'm sorry, they cut a hole in your throat. I need more empathy here. Like you've been,
because you wanted to farm out. You like a farm out the husband for a month.
Yeah, this could have been one of those trading spouses months. Like, let me get one of those nice ones that's actually
nurturing, caring, orderly.
And we heal differently when we're sick or whatever. Like, I'm like I don't know if you guys know this about dogs, but when they get sick, like if you have outdoor dogs, they just go in the woods and they get better, or they die, and then they just come back when they're done. Like, that's me when I'm sick. I don't want anybody bothering me. I just want to go in my room, and then I'll come back out when I'm done. Shannon is not like that. She's, you know, she gets some extroverted tendencies to her, so she gives what she needs. In the words of the great poet Bon Jovi, you give what you need. And
great poet.
She needs the nurturing that she gives, and whether
you don't have it to give,
whether it's God's punishing her for the sins of her fathers, I don't know, because he didn't do anything, and she's stuck with me, which I'm willing to take one for the team if that's what it took. But she got stuck with maybe the least nurturing husband she could have found.
The past couple of weeks, you've been tied up being a caring husband. So well done with that.
And meaning to be caring husband, yeah.
And I've been doing grandpa duties, which has been awesome. So, and then, we had some vacation in the middle of that. And so we're back on track. We're trying
vacation. You did, didn't you?
Well, I went to Wyoming for a week.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait, what was vacation? Yeah, that's right.
Kind of a work trip vacation.
Yeah.
With some staff and some friends. And
yeah, they did. I guess that does technically count as vacation.
got to be, anytime I'm off the grid and my phone doesn't work,
That's vacation.
that's a vacation. When I can't access my phone and no one can access me, and I don't have to make any decisions or answer any emails or put out any fires for more than 3 days, it feels like a vacation.
I haven't mentioned this to you yet.
Oh, no.
But where we are in the process of moving, there's hardly any cell phone service at all.
Was this one of the selling points for you?
I was like, I got no bars of service. Where do I sign? There is internet. Like I can get the internet, but
wow.
Yeah. So I still don't understand the difference so like in America, there are places right here. One of the most wealthy, affluent counties in the United States, for sure, in Tennessee. And there are places 5 minutes from here where, they're still dealing like with 12 BPS internet uploads and no cell phone service. Like Bethesda Elementary School's 10 minutes from here. You have 0 bars of service there.
Yeah.
I could be in a tent in West Africa in the middle of nowhere with 5 bars and FaceTiming with my wife. It's the most bizarre. I just still don't understand how that happens. But we're going to be in a drop zone with it where there's no service.
Off the grid. Super fun. Really enjoyed my time out west. Glad to be back. We are glad to be back, back behind the desk and talking about some things that are happening in the world, things that are happening in our church community, of which we're continuing through the Gospel According to Genesis series. Through the book of Genesis, through the first roughly 10, 11 chapters here. We're in chapter 9 right now.
We just finished that one up.
And
no, we didn't finish 9. We just finished the first part.
Finished the first part. Part 1 of chapter 9. Part 2 to come this weekend. Rainbow Connection was the title of this sermon on Sunday. All the Kermit the Frog vibes. I love that you named him KT Frog, as the great poet KT Frog in his Rainbow Connection song.
Now, are you old enough to have remembered Kermit's version of that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was little.
Because it was the late 70s.
So I would have caught, maybe a little rerun in the early 80s as a child. But yeah, anytime Kermit the Frog's on the screen, you got my attention.
Interesting. Like a lot of things, when you hear whatever Kermit singing or whatever, and maybe that was the magic of the Muppets, it was something that you could find hilarious as a child. But now I realize like it was a deep song, like, and I didn't realize it until Sleeping at Last did a cover of it on one of his cover records. And it was like, for the first time hearing Bop slowed down acoustic, going, good Lord, that's a deep song. Yeah, it's way different at 53. But it hit way different at my age, listening to, a Sleeping at Last version. Like, man, Kermit, poor Kermit. He was a tortured little frog, man.
Yeah. The rainbow presents itself in chapter 9 of Genesis. It's obviously the Noah's Ark story, of which we've heard this story all of our lives, many children's versions of it, and there's paintings, there's kids' books, there's the hundreds of thousands of different replications of the rainbow in Noah's Ark that's on anything and everything over the years. We've all seen them, we all have them, but I felt like Sunday's teaching gave just maybe not a fresh perspective, but just a different angle of the rainbow teaching.
Yeah.
And so why Rainbow Connection? Like, why? Obviously it's a great song from KT Frog, but what's the tie-in? Like, where is this at with Noah in the rainbow?
When you listen, so I actually went and listened to the interview of Paul Williams, who wrote the song. He's a composer that, if you're around music at all, you're familiar with his work. And I was just curious. Like, here's this guy that he's a award, like literally an Academy Award winning, composer. Everybody from, Lady Gaga. And here he's writing a song for a frog. Like, I don't know, just was curious about it. And I was listening to this, and keeping in mind, this is written in 76, I think. Someone can fact check me on that. Definitely before Mo was born. But it was like the catechism of our current day, which is the message of the song is that, there are those who scoff and say the rainbow doesn't mean anything, but, I know they're wrong. And then the next verse is, if you just wish upon a star, which he specifically said, I took that from, this was my Jiminy Cricket moment for Kermit the Frog. I needed a Jiminy Cricket, which is when you wish upon a star, it makes no difference who you are. And he actually alludes to that in the song. But at the core message of the song is this question of what does the rainbow mean? And if you just believe in yourself enough, you can do whatever you want to. It's every Disney movie ever. Yeah. That same message over and over again. I don't know that he was the first guy to really sell that message, but that was a message that's been around for the last 35, 40 years. And it started with Kermit the Frog. So the question he's asking, then someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. But if the connection is that it's just inside of you and you got to look inside, it's the actual opposite of the way that fulfillment and joy and whatever can happen in your life, which is you're trying to find a meaning inside of yourself instead of a meaning from outside of yourself, a meaning that is found as opposed to a meaning that is given to you from a creator with it. And it seems, I don't know, innocuous, but it's kind of important, because if it's whatever meaning you want in your life just comes from whatever you make up in your mind, you end up with a Demi Lovato moment where one day I'm a lesbian, the next day I'm not, and the next day I'm a transgender. Because it's inside of me, I've had all these different phases of my life. And if I'm looking to try to use that as my gauge for how I'm going to live, it's a very miserable way to live. And as opposed to, if you're created, then your creator clearly had a reason for creating you. And if your creator is God, he has a purpose and meaning and all that. And so if we will look outside to find purpose and meaning from something that doesn't change, then you have a steady way to live. And anyway, that's the sort of the connection is that was he created this all these years ago to search for meaning and purpose using the very thing that God created to tell us what the meaning and purpose of our lives are, which is that he made a covenant with us. He made a covenant with Noah and the generations that would follow him. And that's what we attempted to look at on Sunday and dig into was, what was that then? What is that rainbow connection?
It's interesting though that covenant was made after he had to wipe the planet. Like that's the heartbreaking part of it, right? It's like he had to start over.
Yeah.
In a sense, but there was a righteous man, a righteous family that led the way. But it is that covenant and that promise. It's all rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah.
After the fact.
Yeah.
That the world got, flooded.
Yeah. And it's an important distinction to make that, a lot of people that have shipwrecked their faith, shipwrecked it because of some Old Testament things that they didn't understand the fullness of what was happening. So for instance, if God had destroyed the earth simply because we were being naughty, then that may be a little harsh.
Yeah.
But if you go to Genesis 6, it's why we went through Genesis 1 through 11. There is this worldview that God gave us. It's true, and it is the most accurate description of why the world is the way that it is. And the Genesis 6 idea that there were these angelic beings that came to earth, the watchers, the sons of God, had relations with the daughters of men. They were literally creating another race of humans, or some hybrid, whatever. And whether you believe that or not, it genuinely explains why God had to start over. Because if he had not, the world would have imploded itself anyway. The logical conclusion of that was, it says in Genesis 6, the whole world was filled with violence. everybody's killing everybody. It would have. And so if you've ever been around someone who's had a cancer surgery, you do the surgery, and it's a bloody affair, but it's the only way to save the patient is to cut out the cancer. And so, yeah, he starts there, wipes it out, and says, this my plan that started in Genesis 3, the enemy was thwarting it by interbreeding with humans and creating this whole new race of beings, the mighty men of old, the Nephilim. He had to start over because it was going to start over, whether it was you were going to do this the hard way or the easy way. We're going to do it anyway. It's going to happen, and so God took over with it, and that was what happened, and started over with Noah, Mrs. Noah. Isn't it interesting that her name is never mentioned?
Yeah,
it's one of those questions for heaven for me. And then his 3 sons and their wives, and completely started over. Which I think part of the reason he waited for the covenant then is literally every time it would start to sprinkle, you got to think Noah would be like, oh, golly, here we go again.
Yeah.
I don't know if that thing's still going to float. Like we crashed into a mountain. There's a hole in the side of it now. How are we going to get out of this now? So it was a little bit of God saying to Noah, you can relax.
Yeah, that's true.
This isn't going to happen again. So it was a gift to him to have that covenant. But that covenant wasn't just for Noah, it was for the generations to come, including to our generation, even today, that God will never again destroy the earth with water. He does not say, I will never destroy the earth again. He just says, I will never use a flood to do it. And by the way, parenthetically, one of the greatest cases for this being a global flood and not a localized flood, which is one of the debates, is God wouldn't have needed to make that promise, because we've had plenty of local floods. Nashville 2010. I mean, massive flood here. But so if that was the case and it was a localized flood, then God's promise wasn't true. And it also does not explain why he said, I would never wipe out again all of humanity and all living creatures, unless it was, in fact, a global flood and not a local one.
Some that have been, those that have been following this sermon series that are part of our church family may think that we're brilliant. They may think that. They may.
They might need to expand their horizons if that's their conclusion.
They may think that, wow, you guys are going through the book of Genesis and going through the Noah's Ark story, chapter 9, talking about the rainbow in the month of June, Pride Month, where there's rainbows everywhere.
Sounds like we planned it, didn't it?
We did not plan it.
No, it honestly didn't occur to me. I thought we were going to be done with Genesis. I didn't. I mean, I'm not naive anymore. Well, I am a little naive, but I didn't think we were going to be extending all the way through July. I know you probably did, but the fact that we landed Genesis 9 specifically about midway through June, the reminder that every rainbow you see at Target, every rainbow you see, I don't know, Sears and Roebuck. Is Sears even a store?
No,
okay,
it
so
is
you're
not.
not going to see a rainbow at Sears. Probably not going to see one at True Value either.
No, but there's rainbow flags everywhere. I mean, there's rainbow icons, rainbow flags,
Little rainbows for your profile picture so you can virtue signal online.
Yeah, there's the 7 colors. Well, it started out as 7 colors as a representative, a symbolic of the rainbow. And now they've added all kinds of new colors, and the flag has taken all different kinds of shapes and sizes, and they keep adding things. It's really, really hard to keep up. But the fact is we're seeing this rainbow. Why? I haven't gone down the rabbit hole on this entirely. A lot of it, but not all the way. But why did they co-opt the rainbow specifically?
So there's different theories on this.
Like the origin story of.
There is something that I didn't get to talk about on Sunday. That's why we have the Deeper podcast. It was originally created in 1978 by a guy named Gilbert Butler Baker or something like that. And the original had 8 colors.
Interesting.
Right? But then the flag now, if you go to like different sites, it actually has 6 colors now. In the actual,
they've eliminated one.
Fully, vetted rainbow flag from I don't know who, like the coalition that signs off on how many colors you get to have in the flag. But isn't it fascinating that the number of man is 6.
Interesting.
The mark of Antichrist, which means in place of Christ, is 6, which is almost 7, but not. It's such a picture of that. Like no matter what you do as a man, you can come close, but you're going to end up a 6 and not a 7.
Wow.
With it. So not only did they co-opt it, or Gilbert co-opt it, but originally it was 8, and then he did 6. And then maybe these days, I don't know, that information is probably a little out of date as far as if it's currently 6. But
Gilbert Baker.
Baker.
And I was going to ask, was he from San Francisco? And the answer is yes.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I think that's a foregone conclusion.
1978. So yeah,
does it say why he chose rainbow?
Rainbow symbolism envisioned a flag with 8 colors, and each of these colors had a meaning, and then it was modified, and they brought it back down to 6, like you said. So interesting, and so yeah, I mean we're seeing this all over on products, in stores, all month long.
Now, could we maybe take a little detour and acknowledge that about a month ago we were talking about this, and I was not sure that the giant corporations wouldn't double down on this, and you were sure that the corporations would back off on it a little bit because of the backlash from last year when they went too far. And
I posed the question about a month ago in podcast, like, what coming into June, what are we going to see? Are we going to see a double down, or are we going to see a retraction, or a slowdown rather, a pullback? I was on team pullback. You were on team double down.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, it's, who knows? But the results are in, and we're at the end of June now, and so we're starting to see some reports coming out of how corporations have tackled Pride Month this year in 2024. And there was a report on NBC News this last week, just a week ago, showing that stores are more subdued in Pride Month this year overall. Many corporations dialing back their marketing spend on all of this across the board.
And I'm sure this is because they've had some sort of a moral reckoning and a repentance of their illogical.
No, it wouldn't be that simple.
It could be also that Target had its first decline in sales this year since 2016. Like it literally, and they're all wringing their hands like, oh, what in the world happened here? But there's that saying, "Go woke, go broke," which is it's whatever. It's somewhat true in some places, but that. The biggest religion in America is the shareholders. It's money.
Yeah.
And the love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. And when you take away from the shareholders, and it makes you kind of feel like, how dumb were these guys to think that this was actually going to increase their share value, their stock value, and instead it's tanked their stock value. So I think that's an important thing to note. It wasn't like they had like a moral awakening. It was a checkbook awakening.
Of course.
And
absolutely.
so, because when you look at those, and I'm not sure that NBC article, I know that NPR, AP, and Wall Street Journal, all three said that the companies that have, quote unquote, pulled back, when you read into the article, what they really did was they kept their displays in cities where they were super profitable. So they didn't back off that.
Yes, so big cities, West Coast.
Yeah, San Francisco, New York, LA. But you come to a place like, of course, I haven't been to Target.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, when they went for tuck-friendly swimsuits,
you were out.
Yeah, and I already didn't like Target. Like, I just didn't. I would go there because I like my wife and she liked it, but
yeah, I think it's safe to say like Southeast, Southern cities, those are the cities that they've retracted.
Yeah, and so it wasn't like they took the moral high ground. And if I were part of that whatever community, the alphabet soup, that I would be furious that these guys betrayed us for money. But if they're not saying that right now. They
are starting to say it.
Oh,
that was one of the articles I read this morning. Is that the LGBT community is frustrated. Because it's now called rainbow washing. If you stick a rainbow icon or symbol or flag on something just to say that you did, and just to appease the community, but not really making a stance or using it to profit off of the community. They're starting to rebel against these companies. It's the cannibalism in full effect here again.
Right.
Using rainbow colors and imagery extensively in marketing materials, logos, and products without actually doing anything to quote unquote help the LGBT community is considered rainbow washing. That's the phrase.
So instead of virtue signaling, is that like the left-wing version of virtue signaling?
Yes, rainbow washing. I'm trying not to laugh. But it's saying it can be actually harmful to the LGBT community because it trivializes the real struggles that they face.
Yeah, and those struggles are that the 48 days a year that honor some version of who they are is just not enough.
Yeah, we did a little research on that too. Obviously, there's a whole month of June.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of other days sprinkled throughout the year because it feels like it's more than just the month of June.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, for an oppressed people, they sure have a lot of days that celebrate visibility. And I found this on a few different sites, one of which was, I got to pull it up here. This is actually from this is actually hilarious to me. Emporia State University. This is a Kansas university. And they've got a whole page on here that these are the important dates throughout the year for, of course, they go for the LGBTQ plus. If I were in the plus part of that, I'd be mad. Like, why can't I get my letter in the alphabet? Like, I want to be on there. But I count here 38 days, not including Pride Month, which would be another 30. So we're talking 68 to 70 days, because one of them is not on here, which was transgender awareness on Easter that we experienced this year.
Transvisibility.
So, yeah, that one, yeah, Transvisibility Day, which is, I can see them, so they don't need to be visible. I can see them. But for an oppressed people to get, like, I think as Christians we get Easter and we get Christmas, so we get 2 days. And in fairness, we get to, they don't deliver mail on that day, and it's a pretty big deal, but we don't get like 40 days a year.
But yeah, but I mean, it's more than just being Christian. It's just being heterosexual, married couples in relationship. Like I get my wedding anniversary. And I tell everybody about it. I just celebrated 24 years of marriage with my wife this week. And proud of that. Posted about it. That's my one day a year that we celebrate that.
Yeah.
Publicly. But this, like, I don't understand, like, we don't have is there a national marriage day? Maybe there is. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. And honestly, I don't even know who gets to decide which.
Right,
like,
but if we're talking about
Siblings Day, I don't know who makes that call. But
if we're talking about an oppressed people, it feels like marriages in America, husbands and wives are oppressed in that line of thinking.
Yeah.
So I feel like we should make a petition for our own day.
Yeah. Yeah, when you think culturally, and this is probably important, and probably I should have started with this. It's important, at least in my heart, and I think even from a biblical perspective, to differentiate between the political, cultural narrative of this, and then just the individuals that God still loves and God still wants to save and God 100%. Still wants to be. We have to delineate between them. Now, in fairness to us, the ideology right now of LGBT is they have not really allowed us to do that because they have bootstrapped it all together. And I use they, very broad and sweeping, of course. But
I mean, you have to define they also.
Yeah. But it's they being, it's true. They, them, she, her.
Watch your pronouns.
Yeah. But there's a difference between that, who God loves, and then the other, which is the, like literally weaponizing the rainbow. Like there's this episode of Seinfeld 30 years ago where Kramer is in an AIDS walk, but he doesn't want to wear the ribbon.
I remember that episode.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you won't wear the ribbon? Why you wear the ribbon? And it's like virtue signaling long before there was virtue signaling. Yeah. And the point, it was this huge, it was hilarious. And I was, again, 30 years ago, so I didn't realize, they were just prophesying for the future. But the idea that even him walking in the AIDS walk was not enough. You have to wear the ribbon. You have to be and so that does fall into the cultural part of this, as opposed to there's many individuals, individuals that I know personally who are who would identify gay, whatever, but they do not buy into this nonsense. Unfortunately, their voices are quiet, and these others are so loud. And the cultural elites, the tech companies, the media companies, they're the ones that are controlling the narrative right now. So that's why it's being shoved at us in every single direction.
You also made a really interesting observation concerning the actual rainbow itself, the bow, and the etymology, the word of bow in Scripture in Genesis, and how it is a bow in and of itself is a weapon, right? I mean, it's a tool of war in ancient days, a bow and arrow. Dive into that just a little bit, because you went down a path here that was a fresh new angle of understanding what that bow really means.
Yeah.
Talking about weaponization of the rainbow.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
What's wild is that it felt fresh, but I was reading a Charles Spurgeon sermon, which is kind of embarrassing. But this is hundreds of years ago that Spurgeon makes this connection that this word is used 75 times in the Old Testament, the word for bow. In fact, in the King James, it does not say rainbow, it just says bow. Every other time besides Genesis 9, it is used describing a weapon of war and not a rainbow in the sky, like every other time. And so what Spurgeon was making the case for is the imagery of a bow hung on a wall. And if you are a hunter, a bow hunter, there's a lot of them around here. When you get home, you hang it on the wall, you unstring it, because it's not going to be used as a weapon that day. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of the rainbow being a bow as a weapon, again, King James Version, the imagery is of God telling Noah, I am not going to wipe out humanity with a flood again. There's a promise coming here that I'm making to you, a covenant I'm making, which was all one-sided. I will, it shall, I will. There is no, and Noah, then you will. This was a one-sided covenant. And then he hangs his bow on the wall with no string and no arrow, and it's pointed upward, right? So it's like, it's not aimed down. Now, by the way, I think I misspoke. Someone told me after this, someday I'm going to learn this. Somebody grabbed me between services and said, that the Care Bear, they're all like, their umbrella, their rainbow's upside down on the Care Bear. And I just mentioned that in passing in second service. I didn't fact check myself. And Laura Kuhn made a beeline for me afterwards. I Googled it while you're doing it, that's why I can't just be shooting my mouth off, because people Google while you're doing it.
That's true.
So you don't mess with my Care Bears. Like they're not, they're not upside down. I have not had a chance to go back. It mattered exactly none at all to me. I just shouldn't have shut that up.
Right.
But the point is that the bow is not, and this is something that Spurgeon did make the case for, it is not pointed down at us. It's pointed up at the sky, and the imagery that he makes, the connection he makes is sort of twofold. One is that it is, and this is an important distinction, by the way, that it isn't that there doesn't need to be justice still. But instead of aiming down at us, it's aimed up and aimed at specifically at Christ himself, which Isaiah 54 makes that connection to the mercy and the grace.
The rainbow connection.
The rainbow connection, Exhibit A. And it was not, and so it's justice and mercy, because God, if it's the greatest dilemma in the universe, and it's why the gospel is so massive, because if God is all justice and no mercy, then we're all dead. If God is all mercy and no justice, we're still all dead, because we'll kill each other. And so he has to find a way to do both. And the cross was the way, which was justice for my sins that deserve to be punished by death were then received by God himself in Christ, in God. God was in him on the cross, Colossians says. So it was, these people that say that it was cosmic child abuse, they don't know their Bible. They're just retweeting something from their brain. God was in Christ. I don't understand it, but that's what it says. God himself, right? It's what he would tell Abraham just a few chapters later. God himself will provide a ram, provide himself the ram, meaning I will be the ram that will pay for the sins. And the thing about the gospel is this, that the only way that justice is really served is that the actual person who was harmed in it gets restitution from it, or gets to waive the revenge of it. And the ultimate harm when I sin is against God. Even if I sin against you or sin against my wife, God created you, God created my wife, God created Micah, whatever. So if I, do something, I am harming them But the one that I'm sinning against is the one that created them, because I am harming his art, his creation, his. If you walked into, something that I created or music that, Jason has created, and I just destroy it all, am I sinning against the music? Yeah, but I'm really sinning against God, which is why David with Bathsheba, when his repentance came, said, against you, God, and you only have I sinned. If you're Uriah, you're like, well, you kind of sinned against me. You took my wife, but the sin was on him, but against God. And so justice and mercy are both in God, and it's impossible to have both if everybody is sinning. Do you give everybody mercy? And that's the problem we get in our political systems right now. Politicians say, if we can just get the good people to rise up and just get rid of the bad people, then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Right? And so here you look at Noah. We tried that once.
Yeah.
God left the top, not just 1%, the top 1% of the population. Mm-hmm. These are the good ones. And within months of coming off of the ark, the sin went into the ark with Noah, came off the ark with Noah. Within months, we're already there. So mercy without justice and justice without mercy, either one is a dead end. And so God said, I'll do both. And the only way to do both was for himself, right, to take the punishment I deserve, give me his righteousness, not my own, meaning from and without, not within. That's the rainbow, man. It's aimed up. It's not aimed at me. It's aimed at him.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It was roughly about 1,500 years or so from creation to the flood, 1,500 to 2,000, somewhere.
Unless you're Hugh Ross.
Unless you're Hugh. And then roughly another 2,000 years for when Christ appears. Is that right?
I think it's 4,000.
4,000. And then another...
I pulled that out of my butt, by the way. Someone probably should fact check me.
Yeah.
We need to get a fact checker.
And then another 2,000 since Christ, right? So it's like, I don't know. Are we on the back end of something as in the days of Noah? So shall it be?
Oh, yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was 2,000 years then.
Yeah, because I think we're
in a 6,000 year, the 7,000th year of...
Yeah, I think we're getting towards the 7 here. 2,000, 2,000, and 2,000. In the 1,000th year here, it's like, it just makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Timing.
Yeah, God doesn't do anything by accident, right? So even when you think of the 2,000 years since Christ's resurrection and sacrifice, we have just entered the 3,000th. And Peter, of course, 1 Peter, a day is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years like a day. God is not slow as some understand slowness. So not only is 7 a magic, beautiful number of completion and wholeness, and we're in the 7,000th year since the creation, but we are also in the 3,000th year, it's the morning of the 3,000th year. And when did Jesus rise? On the morning of the third day. Here we are in the morning of that. And so, and you keep connecting the dots to Noah, everywhere from Jesus, to Isaiah. I mean, it's all over Scripture. Peter, that theme comes up over and over and over again, that is what happened with Noah is instructive for us, which is one of the reasons why we went through Genesis 1 through 11. It's instructive for us if you're living in a world in upheaval. It's not the first time we've been here. We've been here before. Genesis 1 through 11 explains it better than anything else. It explains it more comprehensively and accurately, and it gives us a little bit of a field guide for what to do and what to expect and what to look for.
And to that point, as we continued to kind of deep dive into some of this, kind of came across this idea of the Antichrist, the apocalypse. There's a Antichrist that arrives on a white horse with a bow.
Yeah. Revelation chapter 6. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
The 4 horsemen, one of which is a white horse.
A white horse riding with a bow. And he has come to make war on God's people. And theologians, everybody from John MacArthur to Chuck Smith, dispensationalists look at that and they see Antichrist because it's a bow, but there are no arrows in it. But he's weaponizing it because Daniel chapter 8, verse 9, probably, give or take, tells us that this great Antichrist man, whatever that's coming, will conquer through peace. In fact, you know what? Actually, let me just open that up. It's Daniel 8, because it's interesting how you can cross-reference your Bible with the evening news these days.
Yeah, no kidding.
And one of the things that so in the latter part of the reign, let's see, this says verse 23, rebels have become completely wicked. A fierce-looking king, a master of intrigue, will arise. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause astounding devastation and will succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy those who are mighty, the holy people, right? He's declaring war. He's weaponizing. And again, weaponizing the bow, which is Revelation 6. He will destroy all those who are mighty, the holy people. Verse 25, he will cause deceit to prosper. Okay, now I don't know if you're paying attention, but what makes the most money on the internet is not what's true, but whatever sells the most, and most of it is what is not true, and it's about narrative and anger and fear. So he's causing deceit. People are making an enormous amount of money on deceit right now. It's prospering. He will consider himself superior, and when they feel secure, he will destroy many and take a stand against the Prince of Princes, against Jesus, yet he will be destroyed, but not by human power. Now, verse 25 in the King James says, he will conquer by peace, which is what many tyrants do. They start with this, I'm going to fix this, I'm your guy, it's going to be fine, I'm here in peace. Everybody from Hitler to Pol Pot say that Che Guevara, whatever, I'm here to save you. I'm here in peace, and that they conquer by peace. And then when everybody finally, gets in, because inevitably what happens in those situations, it's where tyranny is born out of, is, well, you're not with the program, so you have to die, but I'm justifying it because I'm here in peace. So I'm going to punish and conquer you so that everybody else can live in peace. And he actually uses the word tyranny as he goes on in here, that this is how you will defeat, there will no longer be tyranny. Oh no, that's in Isaiah. That's the Isaiah verse where he talks about the tyranny side of it, where you will escape tyranny in this, and it's Revelation 6, here's a guy, he's coming, he's going to say, I'm going to bring world peace, I'm going to fix it all. And think about it right now, the world we live in. Every corner, from whether it's Kenyan protests where they're opening fire, Haiti, our own country, like literally every pocket of the world right now is in upheaval.
I believe even yesterday, is it Macron? Is that how you say the name?
Yeah.
In France, was talking about they're on the precipice of a civil war. He used that phrase.
Francois Macron. Oh, wow.
Like, it is bad news in Europe right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad news everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's every day that passes, it's like the boiling water increases one more degree.
Yeah.
One more degree.
Yeah. So you're just looking at France, right? You're looking at what's happened in Turkey over the last few years between the amount of stuff that they've had to do there. I mean, there was a literal coup attempt in Turkey, right? There's been a coup attempt in Ethiopia. Like the world is in a upheaval, and then you start reading, everybody from Klaus Schwab to whatever, and it's this idea that what we really need right now is a new world order that can come in, and whoever it is that can come in and bring peace. And think about that. If somebody walks in tomorrow and says, I've figured it out, here's peace in the Middle East, you got Hamas sitting across from Israel and they're signing a peace treaty, people would follow that guy to the ends of the earth, right?
Christians won't be here for that, though, yes?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Think?
I don't think they will still. Depends on if you're a pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, halfway in between trib. I mean,
I know we just jumped into an eschatological
Oh, golly, yeah, we sure
debate.
did. But it's important because at the end of the Revelation, it says that there's a rainbow all the way around the throne, right? So this is an eschatological conversation. It's not just a Genesis 9, it's a Revelation conversation as well.
And that is interesting, and I love that the rainbow it comes back up in the Revelation story.
Yeah. It's whenever I see my rainbow, and then he puts it literally a rainbow circle around his throne with it, so he'll see it everywhere he goes. He sees it, And
I love that because you touched on this, that the rainbow, when you zoom all the way out, a rainbow is actually a full circle.
Yeah,
we see the bow, because we live in a globe. For all of our flat Earth friends, But if you zoom all the way out,
Email mo@conduitchurch.com.
An actual rainbow is a full circle, which speaks to the eternity.
Yeah. No beginning, no end. It's a circle.
Promise.
Yeah, it's like a wedding ring for eternity.
Which is presented and described in Revelation. That it would be around the throne.
Yeah, I think it's Revelation 3 or 4, something. It's early on in it. But when John gets the original vision of heaven and sees eternity and sees heaven and sees into the other room, that's the thing he sees is a rainbow around the throne. And so you've got the rainbow there around the throne, which is actual peace. And then you see just 2 chapters later, a bow in the hands of Antichrist, which is the half bow again. So, which is actually another part of that, which is important. It's not a full round circle. It's just a bow because it's a weapon of war. And he's going to use that to conquer with peace. And look, this is not a thus saith the Lord. It's simply it seems to me, could be, maybe not. But the idea that the bow is being held up by politicians around the world, right, as we're all in now for this, you can kind of see how the conquering by peace, because what we saw during COVID, right, which was everybody get in line right now, and immediately the virtue signalers came along, and if you're not doing this, we're reporting you, we're selling you up the river, we're going to... Because the idea, if you think that the only way to solve world peace is to get rid of anybody that does not believe in everything from transgenderism to this whatever this new world thing is, then you just have to go. And the ends justify the means, so you go, and then we'll have world peace if we do that. So when it says he conquers by peace, you can almost see, if you're, again, dispensationalist, the church would probably not be here. There are many listeners that are amillennialists. There are many, Kingdom Now, whatever. It's like there's all kinds of views of eschatology in this, but what we do know is that there is a moment where the world speaks of a 3.5-year period of peace, whether we're here or not, or whether these are people that became Christians after a rapture of the church, that they would not fall in line, just like we didn't fall in line. And eventually, if you're not falling in line, you're going to get canceled on Twitter. You're going to get, soft banned, hard banned, whatever.
Can't call it Twitter anymore.
Yeah, but that's like Myanmar and Burma. I don't know. I mean, they're both the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's X. It's Burma. It's Twitter. It's Burma. It's always been Burma. But it's, if you don't fall in line, and that's tyranny. At the end of the day, whether it's Eastern Bloc Europe, I mean, it's how tyrants rule. It's really true. To my knowledge, all the research reading I've ever done, most tyrants that I've read about did not wake up one morning like Dr. Evil, Mike Myers movie, as complete, utter evil. They woke up thinking, we actually wanted the same thing. We wanted equanimity, like we wanted equality. We wanted everyone to have a chance. We wanted all those things. And the difference becomes in the way in which you make it happen. And that's where we diverge completely, because we do not go with an ends justify the means, but tyrants always do.
Yeah, well, we've asked this question before, and maybe we ask it every quarter. But is the Antichrist alive right now? And who is he? She? It's a he. Where are they? Where is this person?
It's so funny because it's such a fool's errand, and yet I just find it fascinating. Like, is somebody out there? My guess is whoever it is, we won't know ahead of time. We just won't. God will. I don't even know if Satan knows.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
He's not a prophet.
Sure.
He doesn't know the future. He's reading the same Bible we're reading, going, wait a minute. Which is why when you even like what I think it's Corinthians where Paul says, had he have known, he would have never crucified.
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, he absolutely doesn't know, because that was a absolutely worthless attempt.
Yeah. Which parenthetically is one of the reasons I did not get my theological panties in a wad over discussing eschatology, because if you're a general in a war, you do not give the plans to the enemy. And the enemy is Satan, and he doesn't know any more than we know. He's got ideas and this and that, but he doesn't know. Because if he knows, he could thwart, but he doesn't know. So we don't have to get too wound up over that, because it's biblical prophecy, in my experience, is always understood perfectly in retrospect and in part in future viewing of it. And so we don't know.
We may not know who it is, but safe to say that person is alive, has been born.
Well, I think so. Again, thus saith the Darren.
Or does he arrive through some portal and just arrives on the scene?
Well, see, now that'd be fun.
I'm wearing my blurry shirt today. My blurry State Park shirt.
You think it's a Nephilim?
I don't know.
I mean, maybe it is. I mean, I don't know. It's there's those that say that it's actually the spirit of Satan inside of him.
Or is it an AI created being that appears real and as smart as a human?
Yeah.
It's all just artificial intelligence driven person, object, thing.
So I've definitely gone down that rabbit hole because I'm thinking, man, is it Elon Musk? Has it been here the whole time? He's just right there. Now, parenthetically, that's such a good example of a guy that is accomplishing some amazing things that can sort of inspire, not everybody, of course, but inspire you. But he's not on our side. Like he may I don't believe in lizard people, but if I did, he'd be one of them. I'd be like, oh, that's a lizard dude right there. That's how he's getting to space. But the Bible says it's a man. It just does. So whether it's an AI man, I don't know, but it is a man. And there's some language in there that actually leads to believe that it could be what would be an Edomite, which is half Jewish, or is it Jewish? Like there's possibility that could be it. In the current climate, I don't see how the Antichrist could be Jewish because the whole world is turning. So it'd have to be a wild ride. But if someone, again, slides in and says, I got all this solved, I'm bringing peace to the world, because there is, in dispensationalist theology, but in Revelation, it speaks of a time of great world peace like never before for what would ultimately be 3.5 years. And, that's how dictators do it, right? Like, look, we're fine. There's food for everybody, and there's this, and but eventually, whether it's Zimbabwe with Mugabe or whatever, like the idea was great on paper, but when you put it in practice, the economy completely collapsed in Zimbabwe. Inflation went bonkers, and Revelation speaks of that. A loaf of bread, you have to have a wheelbarrow full of cash to get it. But it didn't start there. It started with these good intentions that were put out with any sort of God's morality or God's spirit in it. So just imagine that multiplied by infinite, because it would have to be someone that whoever could get Putin, all these guys to just say, you know what, we'll follow you in a global sense right now. Whoever could pull that off, people will be very enamored of that. And we have to be very, very aware that someone might be an inspiring figure like that. Keep your eye on them because they're probably going to be trouble. I think you ask another question, which is he alive today? Which means, is the return of Christ imminent? I got to think it is. I know they thought that in World War II. I know they thought that in the days of Paul. Like, I know that.
Right. Yeah.
But we are in a time right now that's different than any other time in history, and that is a time when we have the power. One little, sawed-off, tubby little dictator in North Korea could hit a button and end life for humanity. Like, one guy has that power. Never in history has there been that level of a weapon that has actually not been used. So just that alone, right, is indication that the world is in extraordinary danger that could be wiped out. Again, Genesis 6, as it was in the days of Noah, the mighty men of old had the power to wipe off all life on the planet. We have that power now. So as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man, Matthew 24. That's one of the signs of that could be imminent. He did say we don't know the day and the hour. Might I offer a word of caution to those on the Facebook? Every time an eclipse happens doesn't mean we got to. I'm going to look right in the camera. You're making yourself look stupid. Quit it. Like, I saw the same X everybody else saw, with the eclipse, and I saw it, and then I realized that happens all the time. It just doesn't always happen in America.
Yeah.
But for some reason, in our Western-centric mind, we're making fools of ourselves with that. So, but on the other hand, we do know that the leaves will change, right? Jesus said, you'll know the seasons, you won't know the day. So you look outside, the season's changing. It's changing right underneath of us. In the last 10 years, the season has changed. So I do believe that the return of Christ is imminent. And I believe that just like in the days of Noah, that the rainbow, the idea of peace is what we have to keep our eye on, which is that God said, whenever I see my rainbow, I will remind myself of my covenant with you. He has not forgotten his covenant. He's not forgotten you. So we do not have to get wound up and scared. We just have to be prepared.
It's good. Such a good reminder. You're going to continue chapter 9 this week, closing it out.
Yeah. I mean,
Any insight?
It's a fascinating little passage. Noah, and keeping in mind, maybe he got hammered because it started to rain. You know what I mean? Trigger warning, it's raining. Oh man, it's coming again. I don't know.
I can't spend another 120 years repairing this boat.
I can't take this anymore. I'm aching back. But there's a lot in there. But one of the things that I'm really, really intrigued by is what Ham did to his father. He comes into the tent. His dad is butt naked. And you know why? I mean, look, sip your bourbon. I don't care. But getting drunk, almost every meeting we ever have with anything that ever went wrong, people making bad decisions, starts with, and I was drunk. There's a reason why God calls beer a mocker, because it mocks you. So he comes in, he finds his father butt naked, and instead of covering his nakedness, he goes out and tells everybody about it. And there's some principle in there that I'm really playing with and praying for wisdom on, that we live in a world right now where you see your brother do something sinful or whatever, and the first inclination is to go to the internet and expose them, not cover them. And so, and I say that, and immediately someone's going to go, yeah, but what about abuse? And what about this? And what about that? I know. I get it. So I'm not talking about if you're abusing a 12-year-old girl, right? I'm not saying that. But I am saying that if our life looks more like Pharisees, if it looks more like the Scarlet Letter, that every time a pastor, every time a friend, every time a whatever does something sinful, that our first inclination is to go and to expose them on the internet, or to expose them to friends and to expose them, it's not the heart of God. A friend covers for their friends in sin. And the reason is we're all sinners. So we're all at some point going to need somebody to help cover us. Not cover up, but cover us. And so there's a little bit of a twist in there that I'm really praying through, that feels pretty relevant right now with the amount of, it seems like every day there's something coming online where a great leader is in trouble. But what is really making it sad is it's now all being conflated, that, if a guy has a leadership style that's a little harsh or a little more forceful, he gets thrown in the exact same camp as the guy that is molesting a child. And it is different. It's not the same. And so we shouldn't use the same. It's why the legal system, you don't get a death sentence for robbing a store, right? It's different. But right now it seems that it's a death sentence for everybody. Maybe not a literal, but it's a social death sentence when you are in sin. And God, we don't want to ham it up here. We want to be able to follow God and follow God's heart, and to cover each other up in those situations, help each other.
That's good. Well, I'm looking forward to Sunday as we wrap up chapter 9. We continue through this series, The Gospel According to Genesis. And if you are watching this on YouTube right now, we would ask that if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know that you're watching. Go ahead and leave a review if you're listening, whether it's Spotify.
If it's a good review, like if it's about the size of my head, can we leave that out?
Anytime somebody comments, regardless of the comment, it helps the algorithms. So,
even if it's about my giant head?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, so you can comment about my giant head then.
Whatever it takes. We just love to know that you're listening. And if you want more information, maybe you're stumbling upon this podcast for the first time, feel free to connect to us here at Conduit Church in Franklin, Tennessee, ConduitChurch.com, ConduitMission.org. You can learn about how we're serving across the world and how we are being a conduit of Jesus to the community in front of us and the world around us. So glad that you joined us this week.